why for a person who's so rational most of the time, so in control most of the time, when emotions get high, you somehow lose control?
The quick answer is we're human. The little bit longer one is probably childhood. I don't think it is just out of the blue. I think it is triggers. It is something that is grown through the childhood of how you were developing.
Okay, for a person who can easily control everything, like think outside their head, usually people get agitated when they believe their identity is being challenged or something is triggering them. But when you talk about debates and ideas and everything, we are so easily detached from it because we hold them so loosely. We're like, hey, this is an idea, I can be wrong. When it comes to people, maybe we don't want to be wrong, right? So when it comes to ideas and everything, it's fine. But when it comes to people, then it gets agitating a little bit. When you want to over-rationalize everything else, so when we're thinking on the feet and we come up with something and we're like, oh, this is a good response. Science all across the board says, no, that's not true, because that's type 1 thinking, and then you have type 2 thinking about it and letting your subconscious brain, or not your reactive brain, but your passive brain respond and everything. Hi guys, and welcome to the Weekly Bustle. This is Ahad, today joined by a very good friend of mine who we regularly meet at philosophy circles. Jonche is with us. Jonche, how are you doing?
Doing great. Thank you for having me. I'm curious as to what we're going to talk about, what we're going to discuss, how this is going to go.
I am very curious as well, Jonche, because as we were discussing this offline, the reason I just pressed record right now is because the plan was something else.
Yes.
But when we started just talking, we started talking about something else. And I thought maybe this could be an interesting to talk about. So first, I want to just give a bit of background how we met and how this topic came to be, what we plan to do today, and why we did it, and where we're going. So Jonche and I met at philosophy circles. And to be fair, it is on us a little bit, or maybe on me, because I do hear you meeting other people, like Miguel and everyone.
Okay.
But I barely meet people from that group because father, married, it's becoming a bit more difficult to take our time. So Jonche and I met there, and we occasionally see each other every 2 weeks or so. Sometimes it's a bit of a delay. And there we usually see that even though we converge at times, and even though we want to argue other sides, we still somehow converge most of the time. So
I think we're very aligned in our opinions. So I don't know how this is going to happen. It will be too much kumbaya, maybe.
maybe, but knowing us, I also know that we try to take the other side on purpose as well sometimes. So that already tells me that there's going to be a big positive that can happen here, right? So let's think about that. Let's focus on that. So how this thing came into be. So usually this should be a Stitch edition, but when we were planning a Stitch, Jonche and I were discussing it, and we were coming to like a thing that maybe this is not best suited for both of us because it's not feeling natural yet. So we decided, okay, let's just meet each other and let's start a conversation immediately. So when we were talking about that, suddenly a very interesting thing came up that became the topic of this podcast instead of the actual topic we wanted to talk about, which was how Jonche and I are similar in the sense that we really enjoy, I want to say, urgentness of sort or real-timeness of sort, but I don't know if I can put it correctly.
Active thinking instead of thinking in quietness.
Yeah, like thinking on your feet, perhaps. I think that's a good way to put it, right? So thinking on your feet. So when we were discussing ideas, we were coming to the thing that maybe WhatsApp messages are not the best because you listen to someone, you have to deliberate on it, and then you have to reply, and then that delay really makes you feel like, okay, what was I talking about?
I think for me, the reason for that is because my brain does the breadth search. I don't go deep into the topic. I go from multiple angles. So I end up jumping from this to this to this to this. By the end, I have no idea where I started. But if I am allowed to think, then I go to that other place. But if it is directly communication, you can see the steps, and it's more natural.
I agree. I think when I came up with this idea of a Stitch was because I realized that not everyone is as comfortable as I am, or as you are, of thinking on the spot. Some of my friends who I do Stitches with, some of the people I do Stitches with, they go like, because we tackle something, these are complicated topics to understand how things work. Sometimes you don't have the answer.
They take themselves too serious.
Not just that. I would also say that it is good to deliberate on it. And if those people think that they want to deliberate on it, I want to give them the time. But
Yeah.
for people like you and me, we don't want to deliberate on it. And I think what you're saying is quite interesting as well. That maybe we don't take ourselves too seriously. But I don't want to say that. I don't. You know why I don't want to say that? Because we are doing this thing where we're trying to spread our opinion
Yes.
online and everything. So I do want to believe that I'm taking this seriously. You get what I mean?
I know,
But
I know what you mean.
yeah,
We do take ourselves seriously, but also lightly. Lightly in the sense that we don't take things personal. At least for me, it doesn't seem personal. Whenever I'm interrupted or whenever someone else goes against my idea of what I'm saying, because I'm in my head. My brain is going through all those steps. So
yeah. I understand. I actually resonate with that. It's quite funny how similar we are in that sense. That whenever
nice.
I having a discussion with my wife or something, or we're having an argument or something, and she says, "I don't want to be rude, but this," and I go like, "Yeah, but you're right. You're right. Like there's nothing rude. Yeah, can you say it better? Sure, but if you're right, I can't really complain about it, right?
Yeah,
So, but on the other hand, she's more of a feeling person. She
yeah.
always says that I really, really care how you talk to me, what
Mm,
you say to me, all of those things that need to be important. So when I craft my response, my feedback, it is
yeah.
very articulate and thought of because I'm like, okay, we have to make sure that she doesn't think of it in the wrong way. But she just goes like, I know you're so chill. I
Yeah.
know you don't take anything personally, so I just say whatever I feel, and
Well,
I go like, oh, that's interesting.
I guess it depends on the situation, depends on the day, because we can also be more on the feeling side, more on the emotional side, but our normal setting is not tweaked that way.
Yeah, well, I don't know. We talked about this offline a little bit, and you do say that when you get mad, and that happens sometimes,
Mhm.
very rarely, you do lose your mind. But when I get mad, I think it has been quite a long time since I lost my shit, and I do remember the story when I did. So let me tell that story, then I'll ask you your opinion. When I lost my shit, the reason I think about this a lot is how I'm crafting my emotional response most of the time is because I'm always thinking in possibilities, right? What can happen? So I
Oh,
think about that.
uh,
You know,
same.
I
Yeah.
expect stuff as much as I can. So what happened in university was my younger cousin. So this was almost 10 years ago, 9 years ago. My younger cousin came up to me and he starts pulling my hair and everything, and I was like, "It's okay. He's a kid. He will do it." Again, I expected that reaction from a kid, so I was fine. The kid was like 5 or 6 or something, so I didn't blame it. And I always was this chill guy who didn't care much about it. My friends used to hit me all the time as well. My family used to always have complaints with it. I'm like, if they feel better, it really doesn't matter to me. So my cousin was also doing the same thing to me. And suddenly, out of nowhere, when he was playing with me a little bit, accidentally he chewed one of my hair because he was up here. So when he chewed one of my hair, he spat on me. And that I did not expect. Out of nowhere, a kid spat on me. And this is Pakistan. This is 9 years ago. I'm also not as groomed as I am now. So it is quite normal for us to hit youngers than us over these stupid things. So I hit him, and I was really mad. And my aunt was also really pissed. She was like, "Hello, what are you doing? It's my kid." And then I went away, and I was angry. I went to pray, and then I started crying while I was praying. I was like, "How the hell did I do that? Why the hell did I do that?" I came up and then I apologized. So that was the moment I lost my shit, and that was quite a long time ago. Recently, maybe in my marriage, sometimes I don't remember distinctly, but in probably it happened during my marriage because it usually happens. But it's not as distinct as that memory that happened almost 9 years ago. But you were telling me this is my story. So what about yours?
Uh, if I have a story like that, probably there's a lot of them. Actually, I haven't been angry lately because I don't have anyone to be angry with.
I love how you put it. I love how you put it.
Well, might sound too nice in a way, but I don't know. The angry things happen in a relation. For me, sometimes it's a relationship thing where it comes out of the blue because I used to have a great memory, and I do mean used to,
Yeah.
not anymore. But I could
Hmm.
remember things just like a picture, and
Okay.
that does not bode well with relationships where you can dictate what happened. And it can get the other person angry, and then I get angry.
I love this because I do the same. You answer, my God, we're so similar. We're so similar. Love it.
Luckily,
Okay.
maybe my brain is trying to protect me, so I'm not that good in memory anymore. I can
Oh,
still remember
that's
the things from the past, but my current memory is remembering things is not great.
I I understand that, but the reason, but what I'm trying to understand here, the reason was not to just also ask you about your story if you want to share, but
Mm.
also like why for a person who's so rational most of the time, so in control most of the
Yeah,
time, when emotions get high, you somehow lose control, and the reflection on it basically, how does that happen for a person who's in control most of the time when in their heads?
the quick answer is we're human. The little bit longer one is probably childhood,
Yeah,
Freudian things, but
yeah,
it is interesting because I don't think it is just out of the blue. I think it is triggers. Like if we talk about people that can get me angry, I think my mother can get me angry pretty fast. She doesn't
yeah,
need to put a lot of effort in. But if
yeah.
I talk to a stranger, if I talk to someone that I know, a friend or anything, it will take a while for them to get me angry. So I don't know.
Mm.
It for me, it is something that is grown through the childhood of how you were developing, like
Interesting. Yeah.
because at
For
that
me,
time the most important things that when you develop, like from what is it, 2 to 5 years, where the
you
getting
learn,
out of your
yeah.
own head.
Yeah, yeah.
I guess that's the most important time to have. I don't know, to
The
have the
good
best.
habits of
Yeah,
yeah, the good emotional habits probably. No, I understand what you mean because I'm also facing this right now with my little daughter. She's almost, she's crossing one now, so we're really like making sure that hey, we have to put positive vibes in front of her. But I'm also telling my wife that we also need to be real with her. Okay, we
oh
don't want
yeah,
to raise a happy-go-lucky kid who just doesn't know that there are problems. So they have to have that experience. But I do want to understand a little bit more. I agree with humans. That's why this question is posed towards you and not any other guests that I meet, because any other guests I meet show me that they're human throughout. But what I like it about you, because I see myself in that, is that I believe in consistency a lot. And I know that's unfair. Humans are anything but consistent.
yeah,
But
yeah,
it's just also good for understanding that, okay, for a person who can easily control everything, like think outside their head, usually people get agitated is when they believe their identity is being challenged or something is triggering them. But when you talk about debates and ideas and everything, we are so easily detached from it because we hold them so loosely. We're like, hey, this is an idea. It can be. I can be wrong.
yeah,
But when it comes to people, maybe we don't want to be wrong, right? So when it comes to ideas and
ah,
everything, it's fine. But when it comes to people, then it gets agitating a little bit. Hey, I don't want to hear this. Like, I don't want to be wrong. I want to be right. What I usually feel in my relationships with my wife sometimes is also that I feel like I'm doing a good job. I'm like, by any yardstick that you see of how typical men are, average men are, I feel like I'm crossing the bar in most of them. So why are you still not happy? Or like whenever there's a fight, right? I'm like, why are you still not happy? And then she goes like, that is a shitty bar to compare to. I'm like, that's fair, but in my head, I'm doing what I can do best. So I think that is sometimes what triggers me then and confuses me. So
yeah.
I don't know what you think about that.
Well, the thing that you said there triggered different things for me because uh, what you just said for me says that you think yourself responsible for the happiness of your wife,
Yeah,
which is not the case. It's not
yeah,
true for
yeah.
anyone. Uh, we do want to make people happy by default. I think we've discussed this in some of the philosophy gatherings because when we make people happy, it makes us feel happy,
It's a
even more
selfish endeavor.
than they feel
Yeah,
happy.
yeah, yeah.
Unless you're a psychopath, of course. But uh, generally, that's the case. And when you think that you've checkmarked everything, you're expecting the reward. You're expecting that Pavlov response where you're, oh, I'm gonna get a reward now. And when
Yeah.
you don't get it, like, where's my reward? Why?
That
Why? I did everything. Why didn't
the
the
chocolate, the
chocolate fall
sugar
down?
cube came out. The cube came out.
What
Oh,
happened?
that's an interesting
What
one.
did I do
What
wrong?
happened? Yes, and if even for people like us who are more intuitive in understanding our emotions, that hey, look, I get it, I know what this label is. Yet we fall into being human at the
Oh
end of
yeah,
the day
of course.
and having an emotional response. So that's what I want to talk about because we did take a tangent right now, of course, talking about these things. But reality, what we wanted to talk about was this thinking on the feet
Yeah.
and having that intuitive response versus giving people time to think
Mhm.
and everything. Where this was coming from was a friend of mine as well whenever we have a discussion or something, or whenever he's telling me a story about someone else that he's discussing something with, he would always tell me that why don't we think about it? Take some time and think about it.
Yeah.
And and I'm just like, I know the answer. Uh, I, why should I think about it? And in certain cases, he is right. Like when I think about it, I think about other things.
Yeah.
But going back to what we talked about, when you think about stuff, for people like me, I can't speak for you, but offline we did say that we're similar. That when you are left to think about it, you then over rationalize it as well.
Oh
Sometimes
yeah.
you go completely the other way around. For me, what happens is whenever I have a disagreement with my wife, and after we think about it or we let time pass, I just go like, well, it was not that as big a deal as we thought it was. I'll just apologize and I just move on, and that happens 99% of the time. And I tell my wife all the time that I see what you're doing. You rarely apologize. She's like, well, it's almost always your fault as well. And I'm like, maybe that's true. Maybe that's true. But what I also see is that I over rationalize stuff. And
Yeah.
I think that is that a good thing or not? And that's something I want to take this tangent towards because
Okay.
when, when you want to over rationalize everything else, so when we're thinking on the feet and we come up with something and we're like, oh, this is a good response,
Mhm.
science all across the board says no, that's not true because that's
Yeah.
type 1 thinking, and then you have type 2 thinking, thinking about it and
Yeah.
letting your subconscious brain or your not your reactive brain but your passive brain respond and everything. So I want to talk to you first about that too, because you also are on the
Yeah.
same boat. You prefer responding first, that is your preferred reaction, but they say that we're missing out if you don't let it sink in
But
my eyes it rarely worked, but what do you think?
I don't say immediately what I think. That would be a fallacy. Well, if we phrase it that way, I do think before I say things, but I don't take more than 5 to 10 seconds. That's why
Yeah, but that's still
I
time.
usually end up with not saying what I want to say in the meetups. But there are people that say immediately what they think, and I don't think we're anywhere near that. Not at all. Uh, but in terms of the anxiety, well, over analyzing things, I think eventually, at least for me, how that feels because I overanalyze. Yeah, I think great number of people overanalyze, but yeah, for sure I overanalyze. I am the type for that. Like every test you can get, I would always be the one that overanalyze. Doesn't matter what I do, it will
Yeah,
still be you overanalyze. But I
yeah,
think that serves bad because when you overanalyze, you think you covered all the exit points, and then you think you're right. At least for me, it happens that way. Okay, this, and this because of this, and this. And it has to be this one. It has to be this one because there's no
nothing else
other
makes sense.
answer.
Yeah.
And then you're so certain of it that you just don't even bother with the conversation that needs to happen to get to the conclusion because okay, I figured it out. What's more to talk about?
It happens to me so much that the person is saying something and I cut them off and they're like, you're cutting me off. And I'm like, yeah, but I know what you're going to say. I, and to be fair, Yons, I completely acknowledge it. I completely accepted that this is wrong. You need to give the other person the
Yeah,
space. And yes, you're right. Covering all the exits is a bad thing. Sometimes you overanalyze. Sometimes you might even be wrong and you're overanalyzing it. But I also have to say that almost 6 to 7 out of 10 times, I am right when I predict what the other person is about to say. Right?
you're being conservative with that percentage. I know,
Well,
but yeah,
it's all being humble. That I think I know, and I can. And this is not like a gloating concept we're having, right? Like that. Oh, look, we are smart.
yeah,
What I'm trying to understand here is that how can people like us who function in this, are we missing out on something? Are we going to the other side? Because why I really worry about this is if you now look at how the trend of mainstream logic is going
yeah.
towards this as well, that everything can be rationalized. right?
Yeah,
Everything can be rationalized. Right now, if you see pop culture media movies, like all these pop culture movies, you see even the villain is now not just bad. The villain became bad because something happened to him or her. And then you start
yeah.
thinking, you start
I
feeling for that
I
person.
really prefer it that way because in life, no one is bad by birth. Well, again, psychopaths, but uh, but I think having that way of doing it, I think that they made a good way of expressing that villainy, but good background story in Joker, probably the one with Joaquin Phoenix.
Yeah.
It's not in line with the comics or anything like that, but it is a damn good story where you feel for the person. Even
Yeah, yeah, but I get it. But that's what I'm struggling with because that's what I'm struggling with. Because now everything can be rationalized. So
yeah,
I was talking to a friend of mine in the last stitch that I had with him, and we were talking about misinformation and information overload and understanding people's echo chambers and all of that conversation that social media had. And then that we were talking about this that if because of information overload, don't you over rationalize sometimes now? Then now sometimes everything like oh prisoners should not be prisoners because of this reason or that reason or whatever it is. And then you go like okay then what is allowed? Like how does society function? And I think that the fragmentation of society that's happening right now that you see in the West
yeah,
around you, the conversation that we were having about society and community and happiness in our philosophy meetup recently. I believe that fragmentation is happening because now everyone has a reason to believe that they're right. Because
yeah,
that's the beauty of rationalization. Rationalization is not critical thinking. It doesn't tell you per se
yeah.
that what the truth is. It helps you justify your truth. And I think that's what I see
Yes,
happening everywhere around me.
yeah. It pretty much is the case. Like no one. I don't know. Somehow we stopped thinking about the other side of the coin. I don't know when that happened, why that happened. Uh, but I grew up being leaning far left until the far left became unbelievably insane.
Yeah.
So I am liberal in the sense of what liberal used to mean.
Yeah.
But every time I hear all the excuses and rationalization for why this should be banned, why this should be removed, why this person should be punished, it just pushes me further and further away from whatever their ideology is
Yeah.
because they never answer the why properly. The why is always because it's bad, because they're wrong, because they're bad, because they're hurting this person. Well, why? Why are they doing that? No one cares to answer that question now. It's just
Yeah.
punish immediately,
Yeah, but
and
that's everywhere, right? That's both sides.
it's both extreme sides for sure.
Yeah, 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 yeah. When we were talking about rationalizing
Hmm.
everything, and what I was telling to the response that you were telling me that you were far left, but now you
Yeah.
aren't far left anymore because you think that they're going crazy. And I say that that's for both sides, right? Any extremist side, any populist
Mhm.
side doesn't want you to critically think. They want you to
Yeah.
be loyal blindly. And that's
Yeah.
why you don't use the why, right?
Yeah. That tribalism thing, I really, really don't like it.
But again, that's human. So when you say it's okay for us to express anger and not understand why, like not understand, well, we know the why, we know the triggers, but even knowing the triggers and working on the triggers, we can't help it sometimes because we're humans. Tribalism is also very human, right? The fact that we all want a community right now and we all don't have it, thing we were having at the
Yeah.
philosophy meetup. I asked another friend of mine in the train this week. We were training together. Well, we were commuting together to Utrecht, and he was telling me that any person I meet, they're also longing for this concept of community because we've become so individualistic. And I'm like, yeah, I see
Yeah.
that. It's innate for us to be tribal, but we're fracturing tribalism by making these other very ideological tribes like
Yeah.
you need to be left, you need to be right, you need to be European, you don't need to be Dutch, you don't need to be Macedonian, you need to be European, you don't need to be a man and a woman, you need to be this, you need to be that, you can be whatever you want to be, you can create your own tribe.
Yeah.
But that's not how tribes worked. Tribes worked because they were tribes. It was a constraint, right? It was a constraint
Yes.
that due to geography
Physical
or due to
constraint.
culture, yeah, it's a constraint. Now, whether you like each other or not, you need to coexist. And now, with choosing your own tribe, there is no need to coexist anymore. There's like, oh, I can just find people who will
Yeah.
just be my echo chamber.
But even in those tribes, it's easy to uh, maybe it's not easy to run away, but you can still make a choice to leave that tribe. I think it's even more difficult now with these ideologies where it's too much dogmatic. It becomes uh, a sin to question the decisions of the
Yeah,
tribe. And I
yeah,
don't think
yeah,
that was the case before because the reasons were we need food and this is how we're going to get it. And everybody is okay, yeah, we need food. Let's kill those animals. And nobody questioned it. Now it's we don't have to worry about food. We don't have to worry about shelter or anything like that. We're so far to the top of the chain that we have to come up with other reasons to worry about. And why not the neighbor, right?
yeah. But that's also a very good point, right? That rationalization is also leading to more problems. I want to make this video and I joke about it all the time that education is the root of all evil now, right?
Yeah,
And it's a very triggering thing to say because people are like, what are you trying to say? Look at the world around us. It's all because of education, innovation. And I'm right, yes, but we're also creating more problems now that were not there. Climate change is a result of education and innovation, right?
yeah,
The current form of extremism and polarization and political divide is also because of social media, which was a breathtaking innovation when it came out. So you see the consequences, and this also goes back to the short-term thinking of humans who don't really think long-term, but they just think like, I want my food now.
yeah,
I don't need to think long-term of my consequences. So, but this rationalizing, going back to the initial topic that we have about over-rationalizing and type 1, type 2 thinking,
mhm,
for me, the worry about type 2 thinking is this basically what we have discussed over the past 15 minutes. That I feel like people like you and me who think on the spot have one advantage that we are constrained by time. That's the constraint
yeah,
we've put that I need to
yeah,
respond now or else I will not have a good response anymore. And if I say it out there, I'm already constrained now. I said something and I need to stand by it now or accept that I was wrong. And I think that leads to a more constructive conversation in a constructive society because we're willing to actually talk about it. When you let it be and let it sink and create narratives in your brain, you don't even get to the point of conversation anymore.
yeah,
People just don't want to talk anymore. They're like, oh, no, I thought of this. It happened in my mind. That means Jonche is this far right idiot who is this. And then I'm not even going to talk to Jonche anymore. And Jonche is so confused. He's like, I just said something and the other person's not even talking to me now. What happened? Do you get
exactly.
it?
Uh, I agree with you to a point because I do believe that we need both because you do need to think about things, but the problem is it's not just thinking about it; it's also communicating with other people that thought about it.
Mm.
Because if you just rationalize because we rationalize and then we don't express our rational thoughts, or nobody has time to talk anymore. That's one of the reasons why we come to a conclusion that seems odd because no one's there to check us, to check our
Yeah.
opinion. Like if you open any YouTube comment section or anything where there's discussion, you can always go to the point where everybody agrees with you, and you're just, oh, I don't agree with that one. Skip that one. So I think it's more about discussing things and working things through that used to happen, had to happen because you're just in the village. You live with the person, has to happen because you have discussions with your wife that resolve in an arrangement where both of you are happy, right? And that's not
Yeah.
happening in society. There's just this wall that you cannot cross it, and you're
Yeah, I
just hitting
agree.
each other, and like, why?
But that's also because of choice, and now we're making a tangent, and I know I'm aware that we're making a tangent, but this is a very good tangent. that that what you just said about this thing that over rationalization but no communication leads to the problem. So the question is not even about type 1, type 2 thinking or rationalization. It's just literally about communication, then, right?
Oh
And the
yeah,
example you gave about me and my wife, I think that's a splendid example because I was giving the same example to my friend that day. I said
nice.
that the reason that me and my wife work stuff out is because we want to coexist. It doesn't mean we're happy about it. So when you say, no, you both come to a conclusion that you're happy about, no, 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 that's not true. Sometimes the one person gives, sometimes the other person gives.
Yeah.
But you have to, because the constraint of marriage is upon us. We believe the institution of marriage is worth it to save for us.
Yes.
So we are willing to compromise. We are willing to have a little bit of resentment, a little bit of sadness for the greater good. And I feel like society now has over rationalized everything, that they're not willing to have any resentment of sorts. So
Yeah.
it's like, if you don't agree with me, bye. I don't want this negative vibes around me. I will just find my people. I
There's
will just
three
stick to
billion,
my tribe.
7 billion
Yeah,
other
yeah,
people.
exactly. And that's why you don't have society anymore, because we have over rationalized our feelings that we are correct and we are right. And because of this whole thinking thing that we talked about, the type 2 thinking of thinking about things and coming to conclusions, people are coming to this conclusion that you should think more often and realize what you want, but what you want is not important. What you want for the society is important, and
Yeah.
people don't think about that part, right? Because you're thinking about yourself. The more you let yourself think, and I think that's also a very human thing. With meditation and everything, you try to do the same thing, right? You try to stop your thinking.
Yeah.
You go like, I want to stop my thinking, because if you let yourself think, you're always going to be in a circle of yourself, because you're the main hero of your story. So you're going to think about yourself all the time. And you don't want to do that. You want to act instead for society.
Yeah. Well, of course, you cannot put yourself in other people's shoes, no matter how much you try. You still
Mm,
have this view from your eyes towards the world. It doesn't go
mm.
inwards. Rationalization is a way to get to that, but I don't think for me it hasn't happened. I admire people who meditate and then say that they're one with the world, but I never felt that way.
I
But
have been trying meditation for so long. I just said that to Stefan as well in our podcast, in our philosophy session. I was like, this is bullshit. I said that for 30 minutes. I cannot not think about myself. I don't know how people think about themselves.
I actually I had a session with a psychologist, a couple of sessions where I was told, okay, just don't think about anything, and then I did, and I didn't think about anything, and then she was saying, like, okay, tell me what pops into your mind. Well, nothing. Your voice just popped into my mind. There was nothing there. so, so for me, it became a task to think of something because I don't know what was the deal because maybe I wanted it to be that way, but it was nothing. Nothing was there. So I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know, but that's a tangent. You were saying something else. It's that we were going on a tangent. We were talking about this over rationalization
Mhm.
and rationalism
Yeah,
blocking your path, right? You're not able to sympathize with people. So you were saying something about that.
yeah. Again, to go back to the point of not being type one, type two, it's a communication, and no matter how much you hate someone or you feel resentment for someone, the moment you communicate, the moment you talk about things, somehow that dies in. It withers out for one reason or another. It's amazing when it happens to you. When the first time it happened, like wow, what happened? Why I thought I hated this person? Like what happened there? And because we tend to just jump overboard, like they're wrong, screw them, we're not gonna talk about it. It does happen that you feel more and more and more hate, and you don't want to talk about the issues between the persons. It can be just one person that is on the other side of the camp that can persuade you that they're not evil, they're not these bad apples, that, and suddenly you're in this burned out orchid, and then you're there to save it, and they're all in your way. It's amazing where we think that everyone is in our way, and that we have the right answers.
Yeah, because we are the hero of our story, right? So everything revolves around us, and we want to have the right answers. We want to believe that we are correct, and I think, as you said, and this is what I also believe, that I try to talk to people again and again about, that you are just a cog in a machine that's called society, because we are human beings. You might not agree with that society, you might want to change that society. All of those are correct feelings and you should act on them. But you are part of the society. And I think people have forgotten that. They've forgotten to coexist. They've forgotten to understand that you can disagree with a person but still coexist with the person share, break bread with them, eat with them,
Yeah.
like live with them. You have to do that. You cannot just run away because your type 2 thinking tells you that no, this is not good for me, and we thought about it, we rationalized it, we realized that, oh look, of all the things that has happened to us, it is still a story you're telling yourself. You just use a different tool. Like science is a tool,
Mhm.
like that critical thinking is a tool, like religion is a tool, everything is a tool. The tool does not have any intention. You have the intention. So if you have an intention, even in your rationalization mindset, to think that you're right, the tool is just going to support you, right? It's like when
Yeah.
you go and find. I'm in data, so when you go and find data, I always tell my colleagues, they're like, I want to know the truth. I'm like, the truth really depends on what you're looking for. Because if you want, I can show you
Yeah.
that we're making a lot of money, and I can show you that we're not making a lot of money with the same data. I can show you that. So what does that mean?
Yeah. Of course.
It means that the truth is, it doesn't exist, number one, and number two, it is the stories that we tell ourselves. So,
Yeah.
to end this conversation, to go towards the ending of this conversation, I want to ask you, how can we actionably and more proactively try to make sense of the stories we tell ourselves and make us realize that, oh, this is why we do what we do? And how can we take those learnings to improve our societal situation that we have
Yeah.
going on here?
That's a difficult one. I don't think there's a correct answer to that. But I think
You're already on the right track.
I hope. I hope. But I think one way is literally these philosophy groups that we go to. There's a lot of people that a lot of opinions that I don't agree with. But in the end, I still hear them and I still think about them. And hearing them and thinking about them is a step forward into understanding what the other side is thinking. Where does this reasoning come from? I don't like that much the sense of letting yourself go and letting other people guide you, which has been a recent emergence in Western society as well. Where that's the guru, that's the they used to have that in software technology. I'm a software technology guy, and they used to have a lot of titles that they would say, "This is a guru, this is a guru that, this is a guru that," and everybody was, "Oh, let's listen to what they're saying," and I resented that because then that limits the thinking, that limits the discussion, and then goes to the following of the one law.
Yeah.
And I would rather have a discussion where everybody expresses their opinion than this is the correct path and let's follow it. But it's really, really difficult to get from that to that because no one has time.
Yeah, but it's again biology, right? We do not have the mental capacity to juggle the current life that we have. We have a job, some of us have families, we need to sleep, we need to socialize, we need to do a lot of things. On top of that, we need to be an active participant, an active citizen in the country that we're living in, participate in the political process. On top of that, now somehow manage the critical thinking and the information
Yeah,
overload that is coming at us from social media. So all of that is just, we can't wear so many hats. So that's also by design.
yeah,
Our brains have chosen to deprioritize some stuff, and maybe we need to realize and understand that that is the process, and we need to come up with tools, because again, tools are made by us. Someone decided that, hey, look, I will make this thing called social media, which is going to be so addicting that people would want to stay on it all the time, and I'm going to make money from ads. They decided that. It's not something that they suddenly came up to afterward thinking that, oh look, we have so many users. I refuse to accept that they did not know this beforehand.
yeah, yeah. Of course, it might be that like everybody starts with a good idea until it gets corrupted, and all ideas get corrupted. Uh,
Yeah.
but I think, at least for that part, uh, you cannot ignore the society how it is set up. Um, I have two thoughts. Maybe I should go first with the previous one, which was a lot of things we are too busy because we are told that we can do anything. We are told that no matter what you try, if you really, really give your 100% in it, you'll be good at it, which is absolute bullshit.
Bullshit. Bullshit.
It will never work. You need to,
Yeah.
yes, if you work on it a lot, a lot, a lot, a lot, you will become relatively okay with something. but you shouldn't waste your life trying to be good at something what other people tell you to, or
Yeah.
what you want
Even
to
if you
do. But
even if you tell yourself, like
yeah, yeah.
my bread and butter is data. That's where I get most of my money
Mm.
from. I do all of this for fun, but I do plan to monetize it sometimes down the line. But it just doesn't work. Even if I want to believe I'm good at it, it
Yeah.
just doesn't work. But society makes me believe that, hey, if you just keep going at it, I've been doing this for 2 years. We're going to be running 3 years now.
But that's the thing. The society is set up. If you want to make it work, you'll need to get ads. You need to try to promote ads we probably don't agree with. All of these things have to happen in order to get my second thought, which was capitalism. Capitalism
Yeah,
is set in a way that money above all. And if you put money on the top, of course, everything else comes second. So when everything else comes second, you justify the means in order to get the money. So it
yeah,
doesn't matter because I'm getting the holy grail, the money. So I think
yeah.
capitalism has deeply failed us, and it is slowly but certainly pushing the world into a bad direction. And I've been waiting for a long time to see it pop, and it keeps people keep getting used to being oppressed more and more. It's still surprising. There's no answer to capitalism at this moment because it's set up in a way that without it, you have to have ash before you can build anything else.
Yeah, you have to burn everything down, and the world system is so now intertwined under capitalism that even if you want to come up with something, it needs to be a form of capitalism
Yeah.
to get in the right direction. And that's what people are trying to do with circular economy and
Mm.
the sharing economy, that they're trying to take capitalism but try to make it more sustainable, just so that they can break away from this maximization and exploitation concept. But that's also not working
Yeah.
because now people go like, why should I pay for a car and then not be able to own it when I can just pay for a car and own it? And they're like, yeah, but you don't have a choice. You have to just rent a car. And then you just go
Yeah.
like, no, I don't want to rent a car. I want to buy a car. So
Yeah.
on and so
Exactly.
forth.
But yeah, that's a topic that is too far out.
Agreed. I want to keep it. I want to keep it to our awareness, and I think you already said a couple of really good points. And I really want to add on that. I really want to add on the fact that we have to learn to communicate, and we as society have somehow realized the example that I was giving about social media. We have made these tools thinking that they enhance communication, but
Yeah.
they don't. They really don't enhance communication. And I think I loved your example of the philosophy circles that we do. We willingly come together, and we see that when you are actually physically sitting together, it's not that easy to completely argue or badmouth someone as easy as it is to do it online because we are a
Yes.
social species. Right now, like at the time of this recording, I was watching this stand-up comedy by this guy, Matt someone. He's a young guy. He does crowd work. Mad Riddle, Mad something. Just
I love stand up comedy, and I know too many stand up comedians, but that doesn't ring a bell. I don't know.
he's a young guy. He used to be in a lot of Instagram. I think this is his second Netflix special. It's the first ever crowd work special. So the
Oh, okay.
whole episode is crowd work. He literally just talks
Okay.
to
Yeah,
people
yeah,
in the
yeah. Just
crowd and
communicating with
makes.
the crowd. I love the storytellers.
Yeah, but this is also amazing because again he's a bit like us, right? Because you don't know
Yeah,
what's gonna happen. You ask the person and then you have to react on the spot.
we
But
can
the
do
point
that.
that I'm trying to the point that I wanna bring about that guy was he kept asking people about their stories, and some of them were really weird stories. Some of them were really good stories. He would add to those stories, and the ones that were weird stories, he shut them down, right? And he shut them down, and then he moved to the next story, and no one really bat an eye. The person who got shut down just stayed shut down. And the first thought that came to my mind, I was telling my wife, was like, why are they not speaking up? Why are they not destroying the peace here? Why are they not making it about them? Because they just got shut down. But I've actually also done facilitation myself. Like I train and teach a lot in universities and in companies. And that's one of the art forms and a skill of a facilitator to shut people down. And what you use is peer pressure. So that doesn't exist in social media. Peer pressure doesn't exist in social media because you don't feel that human need. Even if people are bashing you in comments saying that, hey, look, you're bad, go die, whatever, you feel bad, but it is still for some of us, it still doesn't prevent us from still spitting shit out on social media because we're like, these are just words, not people.
Yeah.
These are just words. So I
Faithfulness.
really think, yeah, we need to really adding to your point that we really need to realize that the face-to-face communication needs to come back.
Yeah.
It needs to become more normal to have face-to-face communications, and I think that's really missing.
Another part with the social media is that is it's the problem with it is because it's too big. There's too many options for getting away from the bad discussion that you're having and joining the group that is gonna pat you on the back.
Yeah,
And yes, there a lot of bad language is there, but it wouldn't be there if there was no support for it. So a lot of people join in on the bandwagon, and that's when you have people that, oh, I'm doing the right thing by saying all these bad things. If you're only one person that says this bad thing and everyone else disagrees with you, you're gonna start thinking about, oh, was I wrong? Inevitably. But because there's too many people in this world, you'll find a lot that will agree with you for one reason or another. Yeah, there are groups that for people that believe in fairies. I mean,
yeah, I get what you mean. Yeah,
you find this oddball that is less than way less than 1%, but still that way less than 1% is millions of people. so,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
so, so that's
I
a
agree.
problem because
I
you have the
Yeah,
idea sent back to you. I'm not alone.
yeah. I agree with that, but till an extent. So I completely resonate with it that you're right that you have this tribalism online as well that really helps you keep you going sometimes. But you also have this certain subset of trolls who just do it for the sake of it. They feed off the negative energy. They feed off the fact that okay, someone
Yeah,
is I'm making someone's day worse, so I'm gonna keep doing it.
that's true.
A lot of people. A lot of people, and that can also be less than 1%, but then also becomes millions of people who just fend off this energy.
But that is also that needs the reaction of the other person. The troll won't get anything if nobody reacts to them, right?
Yes, yes, but that will not happen face to face.
Yes.
At least not on average. That's what I'm trying to say. You understand? You will have trolls. I have
I
been
mean,
a
we're
troll.
going in that way in society as well, because now you cannot offend anyone. Because in the past, if you offend someone, you get checked, right?
Yeah,
There are repercussions,
yeah,
uh, physical repercussions, but you cannot do physical repercussions anymore. But and now everybody's walking on eggshells; they cannot express an opinion unless it is certified by whatever authority is there. So it goes both ways. It's not just that you have this group that supports you; you have this group that oppresses you. So
so dialogue,
yeah,
what I'm hearing is dialogue and communication is breaking down from both sides. So you have people who want to talk but cannot talk because of the system, and there are people who don't want anyone to talk
yeah,
and they're imposing
yeah,
the system. And then you have a group of people who just want to cause mayhem, and then they're like, "Be it anywhere, we're going to cause mayhem." Right?
yes,
And that's what I mean. At least you can calm those people down by making the face to face. Even the people who want to disagree, you can. Like our group, for example, started very small, right? Arubi, when Arubi started this, I joined her group like just a few days, or like the first one, I think even.
okay,
And from there, like yeah, from there we've been together, and I've been seeing Arubi grow into this amazing moderator and facilitator, an amazing person in general who's leading this group really well. And it wasn't this big,
yeah,
but slowly, slowly, what has happened is we established this safe space where you can argue and you can debate and you can discuss. That even if a one person comes in who might feel offended, just looks at everyone around them and just goes like, you know what, everyone is okay with it, so I also can be okay with it. And that's why now you have 15, 20 people who might even say something a bit shady and a bit scary. People still go like, okay, let's think with a deliberate mind then. So that what tells me is that you
you
need
can
to
say
create
it's
those safe
us. You don't
spaces.
have to say that it's some people.
But do you know what I mean? We have that safe space. You and I have that safe space
Yes,
that other people now long for in other societies because they can't say what they want. And this is the reason why I'm able to also express my feelings and also do this online because of the security I feel around me. that I have people in the group that I talk to and they tell me if I need to be checked or not. I have a wife who's always supportive and critical at the same time, who goes like, you know what, I love you and 100%, but what you said was stupid. Here you go. So I go like, okay, now that's perfect. So that also helps me bring more value in whatever I do online. And I feel like that support system is missing because no one really wants to invest in that support system anymore, right? It's just societies, again, going back to point one, which we started with the first few minutes of the conversation.
Yeah.
Society is being broken down because everyone thinks for themselves. And this tool of rationalization and critical thinking that I like to promote myself a lot, self-awareness and this and that.
Yeah.
Slowly, I'm realizing that that also is a tool with a bias in it. So you will only become more self-aware and more critically adept and everything, but it will also have a story to it. It will also have a story you tell yourself about it. I also know
Yeah.
critical thinkers who believe in religion and who like to support religion with facts. And that always confused me. I'm like, I am a believer, but I know that that cannot work with facts because that's a completely different mode of thinking. And that's a completely mode of thinking. But some people make it happen. They're like, you know what? No, I can make the worlds meet. And that's what I mean.
Well,
Now we
we
have
live in contradictions all the time. At least I live with contradictions all the time. So it's possible for us.
it's all that's I think that's a wonderful way to close it, right? Because Janse, that is the problem with humans. Humans are never consistent. Humans are always contradictory, and humans will always find a way to prove that something is the other, and then and disprove it in the other regard. So what I think the solution is the constraints we pose upon
Yeah.
ourselves. That is the solution because if you leave it open, then everything is open.
Definitely. We do need society. We do need the laws. We do need way of working. But we need to communicate about how to do this.
Who decides? Who decides? Right? That's the question.
It's an ongoing process. We don't decide, the society decides, right? It's not a
Yeah.
person, it's not a group of people, it's a society. The things that you allow to happen, the things that society allows to happen, it will happen. So there, I sense that there will be a pushback to all this wave of changes that is happening. And it's like this pendulum will swing. And I don't, I want it to come here, but I don't think it's going to happen anytime
Anytime
soon.
soon. Anytime soon. Well, this was wonderful. We started off this conversation thinking that with these 2 points, how we'll be able to fill an hour or 30 minutes even. And now we're hitting an hour. So, yeah,
Yeah,
like always, this has been a
easy
wonderful
peasy, man.
conversation. Thank you so much for joining us. And thank you so much for your thoughts. I hope you had fun because I had a lot of fun.
Indeed, I had a lot of fun. Thank you very much for inviting me. Hope we do this again.
Definitely, definitely. Thank you so much. And thank you so much, everybody else, for listening to this conversation. I hope you enjoyed a good discussion between me and Yonce. And as much as we tried to agree, I think both of us tried our best to become the devil's advocate in this conversation and try to look at the other side. So I hope you got to learn a little bit from both sides. So hopefully you enjoyed this conversation as much as we did. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll talk to you next time.
Yes. And join us for the philosophy.
Those who are in Eindhoven.